Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ken's Mystery by Julian Hawthorne. It was written in 1883, and it will be your job to decide whether or not this is a vampire story or not. It's a little long, this story. I have it as 25 pages. So what I'm going to do, just to break things up a little bit so you don't have to sit there and read for an hour and a half today or an hour today, I am going to read the first 2 pages. And then I'm going to ask you to read the next 10 pages to get you up to around 12 or 13, and then you can stop for today. And then in our next class, I will read the next 2 pages from that point on, somewhere around page 13 and 14, and then you will finish the story after that, the last 8 or 10 pages. So let us begin. I will begin with the first 2 pages of Ken's Mystery by Julian Hawthorne, written in 1883. Okay. One cool October evening, it was the last day of the month, and usually cool for that time of year, I made up my mind to go and spend an hour or two with my friend Kenningale. Notice what day of the month it is. One cool October evening, the last day of the month. So what day is it? Correct, it is Halloween. Some people think that more spooky things happen on Halloween, specifically in different places around the world. We'll get into that as we read this more. Kenningale was an artist, as well as a musical amateur and a poet, and had a very delightful studio built onto his house, in which he was wont to sit of an evening. The studio had a cavernous fireplace, designed in imitation of the old-fashioned fireplaces of Elizabethan manor houses, and in it, when the temperature outdoors warranted, he would build up a cheerful fire of dry logs. It would suit me particularly well, I thought, to go and have a quiet pipe and chat in front of that fire with my friend. All right, nothing vampiric yet. Let's go on. I had not such a chat for a very long time, not in fact since Kenningale, or Ken as his friends called him, had returned from his visit to Europe the year before. He went abroad, as he had affirmed at the time, for purposes of study. Whereat we all smiled, for Ken, so far as we knew him, was more likely to do anything else than to study. He was a young fellow of buoyant temperament, lively and social in his habits, of a brilliant and versatile mind, and possessing an income of $12,000 or $15,000 a year. I'm no, economist, but an income of $12,000 or $15,000 a year, and that doesn't mean from his job. I think that means from his family. It's how much he gets every year, just to be Ken. In 1880s, $12,000 or $15,000 a year would be a small fortune. Maybe $150,000, $250,000 a year now, just to go live on. Let's continue. He could sing, play, scribble, and paint very cleverly, and some of his heads and pieces were really well done, considering that he never had any regular training in art. But he was not a worker. Personally, he was fine-looking, of good height and figure, active, healthy, and with a remarkably fine brow and clear, full-gazing eyes. Nobody was surprised at his going to Europe. Nobody expected him to do anything there except amuse himself, and few anticipated that he would be soon again seen in New York. He was one of those sort that find Europe agree with them. Off he went, therefore, and in the course of a few months, the rumor reached us that he was engaged to a handsome and wealthy New York girl whom he had met in London. It's a little weird. I don't know if it's weird. It's more ironic that he would go to London to fall in love with a New Yorker and get engaged with her there. Just me. This was nearly all we did hear of him until, not very long afterwards, he turned up again on Fifth Avenue, to everyone's astonishment, made no satisfactory answer to those who wanted to know how he had happened to tire so soon of the old world, while, as to the reported engagement, he cut short all allusion to that in so peremptory a manner as to show that it was not a permissible topic of conversation with him. It was surmised that the lady had just jilted him, but on the other hand, she herself returned home not a great while after, and though she had plenty of opportunities, she had never married to this day. It's interesting as well. Chapter 2. Be the rights of that matter what they may, it was soon remarked that Ken was no longer the careless and merry fellow he used to be. On the contrary, he appeared grave, moody, averse from general society, and habitually taciturn and undemonstrative, even in the company of his most intimate friends. So, Europe changed him. He's not the happy-go-lucky guy anymore. Now he's very serious and stoic. Let's continue. Evidently something had happened to him. Mm-hmm. Or he had done something. What? Had he committed a murder? Or joined the Nihilists? Or was his unsuccessful love affair at the bottom of it? Some declared that the cloud was only temporary and would soon pass away. So Ken comes back from Europe and he is now a sad and forlorn man. Is it because his lover jilted him, that he was jilted? Possible and probable, right? Nevertheless, up to the period of which I am writing, it had not passed away, but had rather gathered additional gloom and threatens to become permanent. Okay, so our main character, the narrator, is going to go visit Ken, and he's expecting him to be very melancholy and gloomy, and he doesn't like it. Let's continue. Meanwhile, I had met him twice or thrice at the club, at the opera, or in the streets, but I as yet had no opportunity of regularly renewing my acquaintance with him. We had been on a footing of more than common intimacy in the old days, and I was not disposed to think that he would refuse to renew the former relations now. In other words, we used to be good friends. But what I had heard and myself seen of his changed condition imparted a stimulating tinge of suspense or curiosity to the pleasure with which I looked forward to the prospects of this evening. His house stood at a distance of 2 or 3 miles beyond the general range of habitations in New York at this time, and as I walked briskly along in the clear twilight air, I had leisure to go over in my mind all that I had known of Ken and had divined of his character. After all, had there not always been something in his nature, deep down and held in abeyance by the activity of his animal spirits, but something strange and separate and capable of developing under suitable conditions into what? I'm underlining that. I don't know why. It just sounds interesting. Listen. Have there not always been something in his nature, deep down and held in abeyance by the activity of his animal spirits, but something strange and separate and capable of developing under suitable conditions into what? So what he's saying is, dude, Ken's always been kind of weird, all right? So it doesn't really surprise me that he came back from Europe even weirder, because there's something about him deep down. Is that something vampiric deep down? I don't get that feeling even at all, but let's read on. As I asked myself this question, I arrived at his door, and it was with a feeling of relief that I felt the next moment the cordial grasp of his hand, and his voice bidding me welcome in a tone that indicated unaffected gratification at my presence. He drew me on at once into the studio, relieved me of my hat and cane, and then put his hand on my shoulder. Pardon me again. Okay, the story's just getting started. You're going to read now about Ken. He is a weird dude, and you're going to find all about that. What I'd like you to do, please, you'll notice there's little chapter numbers every page or two. Please read up until the end of chapter 11. When you get up to the 12, a little dash, there it is, boom, boom. Hello, it's backwards 12. Stop. We'll pick it up from there tomorrow. Fabulous job, everybody. Have a great day.